Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. We're your hosts with special guest Sean.
He's back.
He's
Hello.
back for this one and the next. And if you notice in the next episode we're wearing the same clothes, we just happen to be wearing the same clothes. And we're not recording 2 episodes back to back because we're about to go to
We
Comic-Con.
would never do that. We would never give you a peek behind the scenes.
We started this podcast because 2023 was a weird and goofy year for movies. You had movies such as 65 Strays and 84 Brady. If you like this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You can find it at Virtual Cocktail. And follow us on Instagram at Virtual Cocktail. And review and rate wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps us quite a bit.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about Next Goal Wins.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Great. The synopsis of Next Goal Wins is with the 2014 World Cup qualifiers approaching, down on his luck coach Thomas Rongen tries to turn the American Samoa soccer team into winners. What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie?
When I first heard about the movie, was just like a Deadline article saying that Taika Waititi was doing the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really didn't hear much about it until I saw it, honestly. Like, I don't really remember much marketing for it. I don't remember much press. It might have been during the strike, which is probably why.
It was, yeah.
And then I saw it when we had that job where we saw movies early.
Yeah.
So I saw it before it came out.
Humble brag.
What were your first impressions?
I just kind of assumed that I would watch it, because it's a Taika Waititi movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I had strong impressions about like the storyline itself. I know I watched the trailer when it first came out, and liked the general vibe. Yeah, that's about it. I liked the general vibe, and
Sure.
I also don't remember much press.
Yeah.
Around it.
Sean?
Yeah, not too far off from either of you. I think it started with a Deadline article, and I was like, "Oh, Taika Waititi, that's got to be good in some form. I'm gonna see that eventually."
Yeah.
I didn't see it in theaters, and it wound up showing up on Hulu or Disney Plus, and I was like, "Now's the time. This is it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then watched it.
Mm-hmm.
We are Taika Waititi fans, for sure. I don't think there's a Taika Waititi movie I've disliked. I think all of the movies of his that I've seen, which is most at this point, I've liked. I know Thor: Love and Thunder was not beloved by many,
Yeah.
but I still enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was a fun movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hunt for the Wilder People is like when I think most people started knowing about him, and that's same for me, I think.
Was it that one or the What We Do in the Shadows? I think that came out first.
That came out first.
I think that's what got him.
It's what got him more like critically recognized,
Yeah.
I think, and maybe just like more U.S. recognized. Because I read an article from a film reviewer who was from or like is from New Zealand and then moved to America, and they said like when they watched that movie when they were living in New Zealand and it didn't do anything for them, and then they moved to America and then just like sobbed the entire time because they were like, this feels like home. So it's a very specific vibe.
Yeah.
The trailer. It pretty much follows the plot of the movie, so I'm not going to do like a huge breakdown for it. It is set to ABBA's Take a Chance on Me, so that's great. I'm always going to love that vibe. The graphics for the movie say that it's inspired by a true story that pretty much actually happened, and then it also specifies from Taika Waititi, loser of Best Picture for Jojo Rabbit and loser of the Teen Choice Award for Thor Ragnarok, really highlighting the loser aspect of this team's history.
Yeah.
The cast.
Michael Fassbender is Thomas Rongen.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar Kitely is Tavita. Kaimana is Jaya. David Fain plays Ace. Rachel House plays Ruth. Beulah Koali is Daru. Yuli Larakefu is Nikki Salapu. Will Arnett is Alex Magnussen. Elizabeth Moss, forgot she was in this,
Yeah.
is Gail. Reese Darby is Reese Marlin.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Hemsworth is Keith. Taika Waititi is American Samoan Priest.
Yep. Thomas Rongan is basically our main coach character that we follow. Tavita is the head of the soccer or football federation in American Samoa. Jaya is a player. Ace is the assistant coach. Ruth is Tavita's wife. Daru is another player. His parents are Ruth and Tavita. Nikki Salapu is the goalie. Alex Magnussen is a American Soccer Federation representative. Gail is Thomas Rongan's separated wife, and she also works with Alex. And then Reese Marlin is another Soccer Federation guy. Keith is just there. He's a pretty brief cameo. I think he's from like the Australian soccer reps.
Yeah.
He's really just in the one scene. And then I didn't like process who it was, and I was like, that guy looks like Chris Hemsworth. And then I looked it up later and was like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And then Taika Waititi is the American Samoan priest who is around. Yeah, the plot. It's pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
So we open on a priest telling the audience we're about to watch a tale of woe, but W-O-A-H, like whoa. Saying it's all based on true events with some embellishments along the way. And then we jump to 2001, where the American Samoan soccer team has a historic loss against Australia. They lost 0-31. The team is ranked last, and then things flash forward to 2011. The head of the American Samoa Football Federation, Tavita, announces he's going to hire a new head coach. Ace had been coaching them. He's a very nice guy, but he's a terrible coach. In the U.S., Thomas Rongan has just been fired from the American Soccer Federation by his wife Gail and Alex, and he is told he will be taking this job with the American Samoa team. Tavita tells Thomas he knows their team is bad, but his only goal is for them to score one goal. Rongan comes to the island, having to adjust to the limited resources and slower pace of life. He's frustrated with the team's skill level and lack of dedication to the sport. The group is passionate for soccer, but all have to work multiple jobs in order to support the organization. Thomas also has some tension with Jaya, a Fafafine player. I think that's how you pronounce that. Transgender, basically. It's recognized as a third gender for Pacific Islanders. At one point, Thomas dead names Jaya, and she pushes him to the ground. Thomas is frustrated with everything and quits. Jaya goes to Thomas's house. The two apologize to each other and begin to strategize about how to help the team get better. They go around the island recruiting new players. Thomas helps the team learn soccer fundamentals, and they all begin to get closer together. They try to convince Nicky, the goalie of the Australian game with the terrible score, to come back and play, but he says he isn't interested. 4 weeks of training later, the team gets ready to play their first competitive match against Tonga to qualify for the World Cup. Nikki surprises everyone and shows up to join the team. Jaya tells Thomas that she stopped her hormone therapy to make sure she's good enough for the team. She panics before the match starts. Thomas makes her the team captain because the team follow her more than they do him. The game begins. Although the team is trained well, they're struggling to play. Tonga scores and the score is 1-0 at halftime. Thomas is very angry and quits again. Tavita tells Thomas that the team know they're training, but the pressure is just too much for them. Thomas goes back to the group, telling them to forget what he said before and to just have fun. He reveals his daughter died 2 years ago, and that's when his career started going downhill, and he had to be reminded that there's more to life than just soccer. The team goes back to the second half of the game, managing to score a goal and to tie the game. Tavita is celebrating in the stands with his wife Ruth when suddenly he collapses. He wakes up in the hospital tent later, asking his son Daru how much they lost the game by. Daru narrates what happened in the game to his dad. Cut between other players in the future talking about what happened. Nicky is reading it from a book to his kids at bedtime. The American Samoa team scored another goal, making the score 2-1. Then there was a penalty kick, but Nikki blocked the shot. The whistle blows and the team stands confused for a second before realizing that they won the game. But then they lose their very next game. Later, Thomas and the team are eating together on the beach. Thomas announces that he's been offered a different coaching position. He turned it down, but he's leaving the island anyway. He needs time off to truly remember what else exists besides soccer. The group wish him well, and Tavita says Thomas will always have a home there. There's an epilogue explaining that the American Samoa team has never been at the bottom of the world rankings since the Tonga victory. Thomas Rongen became the chief scout for the U.S. national team, then a sports commentator. Jaya was the first transgender athlete to compete in a World Cup qualifier, also becoming a FIFA ambassador for equality. Nikki still plays soccer and is captain of the American Samoa team. There's also a post-credits scene with the priest again, saying things are possible if you have a little faith. He turns from the camera to a body of water, putting his foot out like he's going to walk across. Instead, his foot gets wet. That's the plot.
Yeah. And it's just full of Taika Waititi's humor, which is usually dry wit. I don't know.
Yeah. Very, very goofy deliveries. The Tavita, I liked him a lot. Everyone works multiple jobs, but it's like the truth of it is just like they don't have the resources. Like people are trying to make soccer happen here because they enjoy playing it and it's a game for them and it's enjoyable, but that requires money. So like everyone is working multiple jobs to support the organization. It's all treated in a very lighthearted way, but Tavita just shows up everywhere because he has so many different jobs.
Yep.
And then he, like when he meets Thomas at the airport, he says like, just score one goal. And then later on, Thomas is eating at a restaurant, and it's Tavita's restaurant, and he goes, 1 goal, Mr. Rongen. And then he's backing away from him, and he just keeps going, 1 goal, 1 goal, as he's like walking upstairs and away from him, and like the shot keeps getting farther and farther out, and he's like, 1 goal. So I liked stuff like that.
Yeah. And like, Taika Waititi is a good storyteller, especially like visually, like he just... It's not the fanciest visual storytelling, but it's like solid and humorous, and so like it definitely felt like a Taika Waititi film. Yeah, for sure. And if the plot sounds somewhat like Ted Lasso, this is based on real events, and then there was a documentary also called Next Goal Wins, and then this movie. So it's not based off of Ted Lasso. But I'm sure it's using the hype.
This was shot before Ted Lasso season 1.
Really?
Yes.
And it took this long?
Yes. We'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah. There are a lot of elements that I enjoy. However, things aren't super cohesive. It kind of felt like when watching it that the emotional beats were in the wrong spots. So like, this isn't a typical sports movie, and that's fine. I don't really care about sports movies. But there's stuff like, so like with Thomas's daughter, or his whole family relationship, like, you learn pretty early on that he and Gail are separated. And then throughout the different like moments of the story, then he is playing these messages from his daughter, like from the phone, and she's saying like, hey, I'm sure you're busy coaching the team, but like, do you not know how a phone works? Like, call me back. He's getting all of those, or like playing all of those messages. Never calls her back. So the whole time I was like, why is he not doing that? But then you find out that she died, and like, he wears her hat all the time, and she died on her way to soccer practice or a match or something, and he's like, if I just drove her, then like maybe I could have prevented this. So then like he gets angry because this is like, he's angry at soccer to some element.
Excuse me.
All of that, sure, understandable, but like there were so many moments of like when he meets, or like when he and Jaya are talking, and they're like trying to get to know each other a bit or like be on the same page about the team. And then Jaya like asks him like, so I hear you have a wife and a daughter, and he's just like, yeah, but what's up with this Fafafine thing? Like he just completely blows past it when he quits the second time, and Tavita says like, these teammates don't know you, like you need them to like know who you are. Then like that whole moment, it's like, why didn't that happen like the first time he stormed? I don't know. It just like them all coming together and being like, yeah, we're a team now and we all like Thomas. It felt very disjointed, or like it all came at the wrong moments to me. Where like the ending was like, it's his talk in the locker room where he finally says that his daughter died was still like effective.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was the wrong time to do that. Or it came at a weird point.
I don't remember thinking it was at a weird point.
Mm-hmm.
It has been a while since I've seen this film.
Yeah.
Since I saw it before it came out.
Red.
So whenever it came out, before that.
Yeah.
But I thought that moment was fine. I think though I was also like pretty sure the daughter was dead before he said it to anybody.
Mm.
So like I was just kind of waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
Just because like you had a few messages and there was no calling back or showing him trying, would have just showed him like sad.
Yeah.
I was like,
There's got to be a reason.
they're setting this up to be
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a combo of that, and then like he is a pretty heavy drinker the entire time, and then like they show like reaction shots of different players, or like Daru especially noticing that he's drinking a lot, and Daru says like there's something up with this guy, and then that doesn't go anywhere. and like I don't know, I just expected like a little bit more like back and forth. And the other thing that's on my list is like I wish we got to learn more about each character. We really only learn about Jaya, which like she's cool. I'm glad we got to learn about her, but like I want to know about the other teammates and like why do they all like soccer? Why are they all doing this? And like they all have like weird nicknames. There's like Smiley, who starts to say like, I don't really smile outside of this, and then like he's trying to do like an emotional soul-bearing thing, and then the game starts and they're like, all right, next time, buddy. Like they just play it for laughs instead of actually getting to know any of them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sean, you got any?
I was in the camp of not expecting the daughter to be dead.
I just always assume the daughter's dead, I guess.
You just got a thing for dead kids, I guess.
That's a good sound clip. Yeah, let's use that.
Go on.
If you like this podcast, watch the full one.
It's all about dead kids. But it also didn't like throw me that much at the end. I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're getting the strings. They've been there. Mm-hmm. It's coming together. I don't know. It feels like in a lot of shows these days, there's people who drink, and so I've gotten sort of numb to the idea of alcoholic characters.
Yeah.
To where I'm like, oh, he's just an alcoholic. He's a fun drunk.
But he wasn't a fun. He wasn't a fun drunk.
He was a non-functional fun drunk.
But he wasn't a fun drunk.
He was fun because he's the guy we followed and he's our friend.
He's the protagonist. He's not fun.
That makes him fun.
No, part of the reason why I was like, I think the daughter's dead was because he was an angry drunk.
Yeah, I mean, he did things
he was irrationally angry.
Yeah.
So there had to be something.
He's like the Bobby Knight for you. Who's your folk?
His wife leaving him and firing him was not enough cause for him to be angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that angry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a good reason, but not a great one.
I do think like with the characters and just as a whole, like my complaint with this movie is that like it doesn't super dive into things. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is pretty surface level, which I don't know. That was why I felt like Taika Waititi was a little distracted when making this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just has that feeling to me of, because, like, Hunt for the Wilder People, like, I know there aren't as many characters, but it gets pretty deep.
Yeah.
And then even What We Do in the Shadows has, like, its deep moments. Jojo Rabbit, obviously. Eagle versus Shark is another one where it is fewer characters, but it still, like, dives in more.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Jaya is the closest that we dive in.
Yeah.
Even Michael Fassbender's character, I was just like...
I think that's why the emotional beats felt wrong to me, because you just, like, the reveal of the daughter is effective, but you are banking on people, like, caring about your characters for a good 80 minutes before you get there. And, like, that just... I feel like you need more in that first section in order to, like, truly have the payoff towards the ending.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. A personal preference pet peeve, this is one of the films that has, like, it does a bunch of other references to other films that are good, and it just is a bit of a pet peeve of mine of, like, it does, like, a shorthand thing of, like, this movie's good because we're talking about a different movie that is good. It has a bunch of stuff of, like, Any Given Sunday, and Karate Kid is a big element, which I don't know how much of, like, because it's based on a real story, I don't know how much of, like, the Karate Kid and, like, calling Thomas Rungan Mr. Miyagi, how much of that came from real life, but I don't know. The ending editing felt like a strange choice to me, of, like, the suddenly switching to characters talking about what happened instead of watching the game actually play out.
Yeah, I think it, like, I don't know, tonally fit for me just because, I don't know, they are these people who are just trying to have fun, and then, like, everything's being hyped up. But then Michael Fassbender is like, actually, I should probably take a step back. Soccer isn't that important. It's about the people. And, like, because the character passed out, we're supposed to, like, more, like, just focus on, like, how he's doing. And then, like, oh, yeah, also we won, but then we lost.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I wasn't upset with it.
I wasn't upset with it. It was just, like...
I wasn't just pissed like you were. I wasn't just furious.
I kind of liked it.
Yeah. It was just another thing that, like, went against the typical sports movie thing that, I don't know, maybe I just expected that to happen because that's what sports movies do. You see them get the goal.
Did we get to see the goal when they were talking about it?
So, like, they score twice, and then the thing that makes them win is the penalty kick, and then Nikki saves it, and then the ref blows the whistle, and then they're like, oh, we won. So it's not like buzzer beater goal happens and then everyone starts celebrating, which is another typical sports movie thing. It's more of just like they win after a technicality happens, which, like, otherwise would have put them into overtime or something, but it was fine.
It felt right to me just because, like, they weren't trying to win.
Yeah.
It was just like just one goal. I don't know.
It wasn't like pitched as like underdog trying to win.
Yeah.
Like, we're just gonna go here. If we get our goal, that is the win. And they had their win, which we saw, and then it's like, oh, guess what? You're actually legends from the future down the line because you did more than that.
Yeah. The priest character is kind of around. He's at the beginning and the end, and a little bit in the middle, where, because they say that, like, American Samoa is a very religious place, so then they're all at church and he's there and he's like, let's go team, basically. Yeah, and then the performances from everyone were very good.
Yeah, Will Arnett played a jerk, so that was pretty much right up his alley. Not that he is a jerk, but he plays one well.
Yeah. Elizabeth Moss is truly just very briefly in this movie.
Yeah.
But, like, their relationship is pretty good. Like, they're friends, basically, and they acknowledge like the reality of the relationship that they're in, and like she's with Will Arnett's character at the end, and like the American Samoa team win, and then Thomas looks up in the stands and he sees Gail kissing Alex, and then he's like, ah, geez, and then goes to the rest of the team. Yeah. So it's not like, you won, so now our marriage is fixed.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Good.
Yep.
I think I lost it at the end, but we got the ears.
For our audio viewers, Sean did the Disney Channel drawing thing.
The mouse ears.
For the mouse ears.
Yeah.
So I'll soon be sent off to corporate prison.
Yep.
Anything else before production facts?
I just want to give one more shout out to DeVita. I liked his bits. He had a lot of good, funny moments. Was he a part of the camera team when he arrived, or was he interviewing? Well, he was the cameraman.
He was the cameraman. Yeah. So they have a show called Who's on the Plane, and then the reporter is like talking to Thomas Rongen, and then he says cut, and then the cameraman takes off his hat, and he's like, "Hello, thank you for being here."
Yeah. I liked it. It was a good, sweet movie. For Taika Waititi, I thought it was kind of weaker.
Yeah.
And not fully developed.
And that's about where I fall. There was like some press that Taika did saying like he likes doing feel-good movies. Like whether or not it's an obvious feel-good movie, like depends on whatever the story is. But then he also likes focusing on family as like an element, or like one of the driving forces behind things. And like this sometimes talks about like the found family stuff and like trying to include Thomas Rongen, and I wish that it had leaned into that more, and them getting closer together and faster. But otherwise, it looks great. People are funny in it.
Yep.
Production facts. It premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival September 10th, 2023, and then it had a U.S. release by Searchlight Pictures on November 17th, 2023. It was originally supposed to release in April 2023, but was pushed back, possibly because they wanted the world premiere at TIFF. Taika Waititi has a pretty good relationship with that festival because Jojo Rabbit premiered there, so they like him. And then the film's cast was unable to attend the premiere due to the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strikes at the time, but several of the real people were there, like Thomas Rongen and Jaya Salua.
Yes.
It's got an hour and 44-minute runtime. It's rated PG-13. It's got a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes with an 84% audience score, 44 out of 100 on Metacritic, and a B+ on CinemaScore, 86% from Post-Track. Metacritic is obviously like the median of critic reviews, or like the average, and then CinemaScore is from audiences, and then Post-Track is also from audiences, and then specifically asking like, would you recommend the film? And most of the time people are like, yeah. So
I feel there's been a like anti-Taika not movement, but
some voices
lately, and I think Love and Thunder is like when it started, but I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's a 44%. I think that's...
It has been a while since we've talked about a movie with that big of a difference between the critic and
yeah, that's real harsh.
Yeah. The Rotten Tomatoes critic consensus says Waititi's heart is in the right place, but his aim is off. And then the audience consensus says it doesn't do anything new, but it's heartwarming anyway. So I guess it's just like whatever standard you have for Taika in your head, and that's kind of how you'll feel about the movie afterwards.
Yeah.
And then there was just the part of a 5-star Google review that I found that I thought was really great, because it started with, "Hello. I have never made a movie review before, but I would just like to say how fantastic this movie was." And then it ended with, "I loved this movie. 9 out of 10. Thank you." It's a 5-star review, and they gave it a 9 out of 10.
It rounds up.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. It had a budget of $14 million.
And was it successful?
At the box office, it got $18.6 million, so it got its budget back at least.
That's a success.
Yeah. That $6.7 million of that was from the U.S. and Canada, and the rest was from other territories. It was released alongside The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Trolls Band Together, and Thanksgiving.
That's
stacked lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was projected to earn $5 million in its opening weekend, and it earned $2.5 million.
That's fine.
So
it made its money.
Yeah. The production timeline for this movie, in August 2019, it was announced that Fox Searchlight Pictures had an unspecified project with Taika Waititi writing/directing to be completed before his obligations on Thor: Love and Thunder. So, like you mentioned earlier, if it felt like he was distracted, then that's why.
Yeah.
September 2019, Michael Fassbender enters final negotiations to star. He was confirmed in October, and then Elizabeth Moss entered negotiations that same month. Most of the cast was announced and confirmed in November. December of 2019, Armie Hammer joins the cast and is an executive with the Football Federation American Samoa.
Yeah.
November 2019, principal photography begins in Honolulu, Hawaii, and wraps in January 2020. And then December 2021, it was announced that Will Arnett would be replacing Armie Hammer for obvious reasons. And then the part was also expanded from a cameo that it was originally. Yep.
Also, along with Thor: Love and Thunder, I know, he wasn't as attached to What We Do in the Shadows at that point, but there, I think, was Reservation Dogs was already coming out by then.
Yes.
And I know he had a bit more to do with that one.
Yeah. And then he is also is involved with some capacity with a Star Wars project.
He's got his own, and then Mandalorian. Yeah. He works on Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So he
had that pirate show.
Oh,
Yeah, Our Flag Means Death.
Our Flag Means Death. So he was doing so much.
Yeah.
And I think it comes across.
Yeah. In that same interview that I read earlier, then it said he said that people say that he works all the time, and he's like, I do. But also, if someone just says, your name is attached to something, then, that doesn't mean that I'm actually doing work on that right now. It just means that, that was a press release from someone else. Someone else is doing that work or something. Yeah. But I still think, you're involved to some capacity. You gotta... Maybe he figured out what his limit is.
Let's say just because his name was on Reservation Dogs, he was still doing Mandalorian and...
Right.
And his own project, and
so it's got one nomination listed on IMDb. The Queerty Best Film Performances, or nomination for Kaimana. She did not win, but that was the one nomination they had listed. And then the initial buzz, or that other Deadline article that you guys mentioned, when all of that was first announced, then it was also suggested that there'd be a large push from Searchlight during the nomination season for this movie, and it doesn't seem like that happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was, not up to their own quality standards, or, the same thing of, whatever standard you have for Taika Waititi, then this falls short of that, maybe. Don't know what exactly went wrong there. But the tagline for this movie is Be Happy. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
So it was directed and co-written by Taika Waititi. The other writer is Ian Morris. Morris is known for The In-Betweeners, What We Do in the Shadows, and then he is a collaborator with Jimmy Carr.
So a funny guy.
I think they have a podcast together. Waititi says he isn't a huge fan of sports movies. He says Cool Runnings is probably the closest feeling to this film. He also said, I understand now why Adam Sandler did all those films in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a good time of you go to the beach before and after work and just chill. That's nice. Like we mentioned earlier, it's based on the 2014 documentary Next Goal Wins. The documentary filmmakers Mike Brett and Steve Jameson were executive producers on this movie, so they were still involved. Andy Serkis was also an executive producer, along with Garrett Bosch, who is worked on What We Do in the Shadows, and then Jonathan Cavendish, who is part of the Bridget Jones' Diary series, among others. So there's a very specific type of humor that seems like everyone who worked on this movie had. So things that were changed from real life events for the movie. The order of the goals scored against Tonga changed from the actual game. American Samoa was winning 2-0 before Tonga scored in real life. So like they were up before halftime, basically. Gotcha. But like emotionally, that doesn't work the same for this movie. Thomas Rongen and his wife never separated, and they're still married. She actually moved with him to American Samoa and was a big part of the program.
I feel they could have kept that.
I feel like they could have kept that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's Thomas's stepdaughter, but her daughter did die, unfortunately, when she was 19. And then they also have a son. So he was not a part of this movie.
And why should he be?
Yeah.
he went into baseball.
Nicky Salapu wasn't found at the local convenience store like they show in the movie to rejoin the team. He had actually moved to Seattle by then. They also, when they have the whole thing of like Thomas trying to convince him to come back to the team, he's saying like, you're the best goalie in history. And he's like, yeah, but I let 31 goals go past. And he's like, yeah, but you saved 60 or whatever the stat was. And he asked him like, doesn't that stick with you? He's like, yeah, I play against Australia on the Xbox all the time, and I just beat them like 31-0, like whenever I can. That is true. That's what the actual Nicky Salapu did. And then the real life Nicky Salapu was also Jaya's first soccer coach when she was in middle school. And then some timeline stuff. Jaya did struggle with balancing soccer and her hormone treatments, but it was on a different timeline than in the movie. She was cut from the team at one point, like after the Tonga victory, and then she went off her hormones and then rejoined the team as the captain. It seems like she is still playing soccer. She quit for a year to do promotion for this film. And then she also sat next to Taika Waititi when he was directing soccer scenes to help him out, because he said he truly does not know anything about soccer. And he said, I feel like I know less since working on this. And that she was also a soccer double for Kaimana in some scenes. So the real Jaya is in the movie.
Nice.
Yep. That's about it.
Cool.
Yeah. Should we get to our rating?
Our rating. We rate films out of 4 with 5 options. 0 out of 4 is, oh no. You should not make movies anymore. Or ever. At all. 1 out of 4 is it was a movie. 2 is well made or enjoyable. 3 is enjoyable and technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 2.
You monster.
It was fine. There were parts that were well made. There were parts that were enjoyable. It was never both at the same time for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Sean?
I was ready for a 3. This is for me.
Sure.
I'm a Taika Waititi follower, I guess, at this point. And I like his vibe. And I like the vibe of this one. So,
yeah.
Like, this'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll drink that glass.
All right. Well, we like to talk about other things that we've watched recently. Sean was not there, but we watched Three Amigos.
Yeah, I was like, we did see something, and now I can't remember. Yeah.
I love that film. It's a fantastic film. That was your first time watching the film?
Yeah.
What do you think of the film?
I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah. I liked your description going in of, like, you like Martin Short? Yeah. You like Steve Martin? Yeah. And you can acknowledge that Chevy Chase was in movies in the past?
Yeah. I mean, Chevy Chase is great in that movie.
He is, yeah.
But you don't like Chevy Chase as a person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is a movie, like...
It holds up.
It holds up. There's really nothing in it where I'm like, that didn't age well. Like, it's all pretty good.
Yeah.
The closest thing is there are for sure white people playing
Hispanic
people. That, sure, not good.
No. I do like when the three amigos walk into that one bar for the first time. They're all in like their wild outfits and everything, and then Steve Martin takes off his hat and he goes up to the bar and he's like, "Hi, we're not Mexican."
Yeah, it's so funny. Like it takes place in like the days of silent films.
Yeah.
But it's just like really shows white male entitlement.
Yeah.
Like in a funny and endearing way, which is
Which I was like, I don't know how much of it was intentional at the time, but like whatever secret sauce they use, it works for 2024.
Yeah, it's a great film, and there's music in it written by Randy Newman, and some of the script is also written by Randy Newman.
Yeah.
But the music in it is also just some of my favorite.
It's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You've seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's been a while, but yeah I've seen it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Anything that you've watched recently not from 2023? All right.
Okay, all right, bye. I've been watching the X-Men movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Started from X-Men, went to Dark Phoenix this summer. So I went from being like, I don't know that much about X-Men to, I think I know everything I need to know about the movie X-Men at least.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. How do you like the X-Men's?
I like them.
Yeah.
I think I like Wolverine. I think I could be a Wolverine fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yep.
He's kind of grumpy, you know.
Just like you.
Just like me.
He lives forever, just like you.
I wish.
Yeah.
And I can. Shing.
Yeah.
The audio viewers won't know I didn't actually shoot claws out.
That'll be a secret just for us.
Well, that's going to bring us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for watching. Remember to follow us. Like we said, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell.
See what happens.
Leave a like. Let's just do a little test. Let's just see.
Yeah. It's crazy.
If you leave questions and comments, we will respond to them on our other podcast, Virtual House Sessions. But I think that's going to do it for now. So we will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Go on, get.